that
you're
point.
playing semantics.
No. I am playing. Excuse me, sir. I asked you something very simple earlier. Evidence. You said there are a lot of them, but you could not provide one. The gentleman is now trying, but you as a philosophy student, please help him out. Please help him out. If something is not reproducible, does that mean it is from God? Did you hear what he said?
If you're
Did you hear what he said? If something is not reproducible, it does not mean it is from God. So that once again, let me finish. So and therefore, when your Islamic Allah, whoever wrote this Quran, tells you you can't reproduce this and that is a proof that this is from God, he is being silly. He does not even know basic logic, because our friend here agrees. When you can't reproduce something, it doesn't mean it is from God.
If you are a prophet, yes. This is your condition.
Are you listening to what I'm saying?
If you're pretending to be a prophet, yes.
Let me ask him again. If something cannot be reproduced, does that mean it is from God?
No, of course not. I mean, Shakespeare created his own original work.
Why are you hiding now? Please come here. Please come here. But did you hear what he said?
No, but this is you're being unjustified. No, you can't make you can't say one simple answer that says this here proves objectively that it must be sanctified. You know that to be the case. It's a composite argument. And what the brother here,
you haven't provided any evidence
actually
so
I have.
far.
I've done the exact same.
What's the evidence
I've done the exact same that you have. Moses, by Allah's grace, parted the Red Sea within the Quran. That's your evidence, that's mine.
How many of you here know about the Bible? How many know about the Bible?
Everybody knows the story.
Moses' Red Sea incident, did that show up in the Bible first or the Quran first?
Chronologically, as in objective time, of course it turned up in the Tanakh first.
Sure. Yeah. So anyone saying the same thing later, centuries later, cannot gain credit from that, can they?
Actually, as well, the thing that you said.
No, listen to me, please. Listen to me, please, because you're making the same illogical point over and over again.
No.
Let me give you a simple example. In economics, there is a theory called Nash. There is something called Nash equilibrium. You're aware of that, yeah? Now, the only person who can gain credit for that Nash equilibrium is the gentleman, Mr. Nash, Dr. Nash, not anyone later. Any number of people after him can use that to suggest something else, but they cannot take credit for the equilibrium, can they? No, please answer me. Can they take credit of Nash equilibrium?
What, somebody else who's just copying?
Later on.
Look, no, they can't. Absolutely. They can't take credit.
So therefore, when copy,
refutation of something.
No, because therefore, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, provide any other evidence. Don't go to Moses and Red Sea, because that comes from the Tanakh. Don't take credit for that, which is what Islam has been doing, by the way. Islam has been big time into plagiarism all the time.
Brother,
and you have been indoctrinated to that. Please don't do that. Give me one evidence that's original to Islam.
First of all,
that can help us understand this is
first of all, this is a more complex topic than you're making it seem, right? Because we're saying if it says it within the holy book that we all believe to be holy, that therefore means, right, that it's holy. So you said just wait. You said the evidence for your book being holy is because it says within your book, first, chronologically, that Moses, by Allah's grace, parted the Red Sea. It says it in the book, therefore it's holy, right? However, that's exactly what you said.
No, this is your Islamic hearing.
No.
Islamic hearing. This is your Islamic hearing. That's not what I said.
Listen.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. Let's go back. What's your name again? What's your name?
Ilyas.
Ilyas. It's a matter. It's a matter of.
No, because you're not.
Don't be frustrated. Don't be frustrated.
I'm not.
Ilyas. Let's get back to the same question.
I'm answering.
And if you cannot answer this time, if you cannot answer this time, I am going to say an educated philosopher would agree that there is nothing by way of evidence that can be provided to justify Quran being from God. So let me try one last time. Do you know of any evidence in the given the historical context, any evidence whatsoever for us to even think that this is from a God?
Again, it's that you have to take a compilation of evidence. Here's one. Listen to the Quran in Arabic and see how your heart feels. Listen to the Quran in Arabic and see how your heart feels. There's one piece of evidence. You see, the thing is, when we're dealing here, what we're dealing with is subjectivity. We're dealing with faith, not objectivity. So for us to determine whether or not this is divine, it's a subjective matter. How many of you have heard the word evidence before in your life? Evidence. Okay, so where's the objective evidence? Where's the objective? How many of you have heard the word evidence in your life? Evidence. Look, I don't listen to Islamic indoctrination. I don't. I'm trying to understand a basic thing. Evidence, by virtue of what it is, has to be objective. It's not subjective. It's objective. So I'm asking you again, one last time. Bonus. One bonus attempt right now. One bonus attempt.
Ilyas, one bonus attempt. What's your name? Arun. Lovely to see you, by the way.
I don't like the way you engage in this.
Well, you may not like, as a Muslim, I completely agree. As a Muslim, you may not like the fact that I don't take indoctrination as it is. I don't take. I completely agree.
Wait,
if you're frustrated,
are you a Christian?
I am. We'll come to that in a minute. Indoctrination, I don't take seriously. I completely agree. That could lead to frustration. You may not be happy. Completely agree. But that does not solve the issue at hand. Muslims, millions of them, not so educated like you, are following Islam. Philosophy. Philosophy. You mentioned three fields. Which philosophy,
politics, and history.
History.
A bachelor's degree, my brother.
History.
Yes.
What part of history?
Early modern European history.
Doesn't help us much.
Highly relevant.
Okay, that's fine. But you at least understand history, how history works and so on. Do we have any historical resource that we can fall back on in understanding the origin of Islam?
I mean, we have the hadith, so no, of course.
Very late sources.
Not really late sources.
What is the earliest hadith you have in mind?
I mean, I know that Imam Bukhari only 100 and something years after started. Not true. Anyway, no. I'm not going to allow you to segue.
Al-Bukhari is not just 100 years later. This is fantasy idea. When you go home, you can check it out. Even according to Islamic claim, it comes 200 plus years later, according to Islamic claims. If we go with manuscriptal evidence, even much later. If we go with the spread of manuscripts, very, very late. You can't use that to understand history of the 7th century. Simply can't. You as a historian should be aware of this.
I'm not a historian. I will.
Someone who did history, let's say. Someone who studied history. So now, right now, even though you say you're not a historian, at least you'd be willing to say, according to the history you have understood, you can't take Al-Bukhari seriously.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, I will not say that.
Good.
Absolutely, I will not say that.
What are the early artifacts that you can refer back to in understanding the origin of Islam?
Listen, Arul, I am not a historian of the beginning of Islam. Therefore, funnily enough, I don't have the data within my head for me to pick out and evidences for me to pick out. I can refer people maybe to some sources. Check out the YouTube channel, very good YouTube channel, Blogging Theology, which is very informative, where you have scholars on there. You have scholars on there talking about proper historical. What I will say is, are you a Christian?
Yeah, but
no. Don't tell me the direction this conversation.
I am. But let's put it this way. No. So in terms of early historical artifacts, you're not a historian. I completely agree.
I'm sorry, bro. I can't have a conversation on this basis.
But do you know of any historical artifact that we can fall back to, we can refer to in understanding early history of Islam? How Islam began? Is there any historical article?
There are. I know that there are transcribings or inscribings on parchment as well as on bone, I believe, and on clay pottery at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Which ones? Which ones? Name of
I don't know. I think one is in Birmingham University. Birmingham Museum. I believe one is there. No, but you're laughing. But actually, do you know? Because like I said,
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. You tell me if there is a problem here or not. Yeah. According to the Sunnah, according to the Hadith you wanted to rely on, you are aware that the earliest copies of the Quran that we are supposed to find should be earliest from Uthmanic time. You agree with that? Yeah. Uthman. Once, listen to me. Please listen to me. Uthmanic Mushaf, standardized Quran, everything prior to that burnt. This is according to the Sunnah. The late sources, I don't rely on that, but according to you, that must be true. Are you aware? Are you aware? Are you aware?
Are you saying whole Quran? I don't know. What I do know is that during the time of the revelation of Prophet Muhammad, people inscribed down revelation during the same time.
Names.
I know that there's a parchment, I believe it's in Birmingham University or Birmingham Museum, contemporaneous with the time of revelation.
Which is a huge problem. Names. Okay.
No,
which ones?
Again, he's asking me for names. He's pulled me here. I'm not a scholar, right, of Islamic history. I'm not. So how am I supposed to know this? If you want to have a conversation about basic theology, we can have it. I'm not here.
Remind me your name again, please.
Yeah.
Elias. Can we agree then? Someone like you, who has studied history, philosophy, politics, someone like you. Most Muslims don't have that luxury. But someone like you who had the luxury of learning even things such as history, philosophy, cannot provide basic argumentation to justify that this is any trustworthy literature from God. So can we agree? Most of the Muslims in the world who may not have the remotest clue of philosophy, neither of history, clearly would not have even the even maybe 5% chance of what you had to figure out if this is from God or not. It's a very pathetic state. It's a very unfortunate state.
We have to understand what criterion does it need to satisfy for you to say that it's from God?
You are a philosopher.
No. I'm asking you. What is it that it needs to satisfy to say that it's from God?
Okay, we'll deal with that. Okay.
No, because this is
good. Very good. Philosopher wants me to give you answers, I'll give. No problem. To claim that something is from God, what kinds of evidence do you have to provide? Well, evidence that give details commensurate with the claim. If something is claimed to be supernatural, the evidence that he is illiterate.
He was.
Nice. I like your ideas, but what's the evidence?
Okay. What's the evidence to the country is my question. Sorry, please.
Is that how you prove something? What's the evidence for Muhammad being illiterate? No. He was. Please come. What's the evidence?
He was.
What's the evidence?
Can you let me speak?
Look, I'm not interested in Islamic propaganda. I want evidence. What's the evidence?
Let me at least start.
Evidence for Muhammad being illiterate.
Can you let me start? He knew how to read. He knew how to write as well. How can you pretend?
Evidence.
Muhammad.
Evidence.
You ask me the evidence that he cannot write, and you ask me the evidence that he can write. So choose
illiterate. What's the evidence that Muhammad was illiterate?
He was literate. Look, he wasn't illiterate. He was literate. It's a way.
He thinks Muhammad was literate.
It's a way.
Please come in. He thinks Muhammad was literate. Do you agree?
Brother. It's a way.
Do you agree?
Can you listen?
No, he said illiterate. You're changing the story right now.
Let me finish my idea. Let me finish my idea, and after you can ask your question, please. Yeah. It's a way to say the angel Jibril, transmitted directly from him, from God, the Quran. it's a way to say this. It's not a way to say he cannot read, he cannot write or whatever. And maybe after he...
How do you know Angel Jibreel told him anything?
This is not a question.
This is now my question.
You cannot have this kind of vocabulary.
No, I need evidence.
You cannot have this.
Can you give me any evidence or not?
Let me finish my idea, please.
Do you have any evidence or not?
Please, can you let me finish? Can you give me 1 minute? Can you leave it 1 minute? Look, we can take timer. Yeah, we can take timer.
Look, no timer. I want sensible statements. The moment
timer, and you're gonna let me finish 1 minute.
No.
Look, you delegitimize yourself by talking like this.
No.
You delegitimize your own side.
Please listen to me. Please listen to me. Please listen to me.
No, I want you to listen to me.
When I ask,
we put in the camera 1 minute. You let me speak 1 minute.
Do you not think that this is just basic respect when we talk about debate? Everyone has a moment to speak.
Elias,
You should allow him to speak.
Elias, when I asked a question, I'm looking for an answer. It is true that so far you did not give any evidence for the supernatural. Only in the last 5 minutes you even asked me what kind of evidence is needed. You asked me and I'm willing to help. And that is where you said Muhammad is illiterate. I asked you what is the evidence for that, and that's where the gentleman jumped in. And he's trying to say something, and I want to keep the conversation focused. If I listen
You're not keeping it focused. You're not allowing him to speak.
One second. If I listen to Islamic propaganda, I could be seated here all day long without understanding any sensible thing. So let me come to you, my dear. What's your name? Louis. Please focus. I want evidence. Don't give me your indoctrinated statements, belief statements, claims. Give me evidence. What is the evidence? What is the evidence that Jibreel gave Muhammad anything?
You didn't let me finish the previous question. I'm going to answer you this question. So can you let me speak?
I let you speak.
I have one condition.
You need to give me evidence.
I have one condition.
If you don't,
I have one condition.
No.
I'm going to put timer 1 minute.
I'm not doing this timer.
Okay, so
because you
speak.
That's fine. You can go on. If you can't
This is
provide
evidence. Allah appeared. This is Allah appeared in Crawley, Sussex. And Allah and me traveled. Allah and me traveled 300 meters in 1 second.
Why did
Because Allah was showing me miracle.
That's good.
Same argument. It's just funny. Like,
You said Muhammad was illiterate.
But listen. When we cite our evidence saying that because it says it in our holy book, that means it's holy, you say no because we don't believe it. And then your evidence for citing that the Bible is holy is because you say it's within your holy book. Can you see how? Yes, you did. You literally did. You said, I'm not going to allow you to do this. He said, okay, that because it says within the Bible Moses parted the Red Sea. There we go. Is objective holiness, right? It said it in the Bible. We say the same about our Quran. So how do we reach this?
Do you roughly remember that I said something like, if it had happened for the people of that time, they clearly would have understood that God was playing a part. Do you remember that if condition? Do you remember that?
I don't remember it.
That's fine. That's fine. But that's fine. Maybe you misheard me because you come from a different background. But let me ask you this again. I did not say what you thought I said. I did not. I did not so far give the evidence for the Bible at all. I didn't even attempt to do that. I am purely stuck on the first question I had asked, which is the evidence for this being supernatural. And that is where we are stuck still. You're making many claims. Your latest is, you asked me what kind of evidence. I said something miraculous and that sort of stuff should be there for claiming something is supernatural. And that is where you began your story by saying Muhammad was illiterate. So please, I'll give you 2 minutes. Put together a story, but you need to justify your story through evidence.
Okay, again, as I've said before at the beginning of this conversation, you cannot cite one piece of evidence from the book and say that this is the evidence here that undeniably states that this must be a holy book. It's not like that. We're not dealing with empirical objective science. We're dealing with subjective faith. And as this man rightly said, he said, well, Muslims who read it, they think it's holy and they believe it. To us, we believe it. the evidence here, right, is just the same as your evidence. Moses parting the Red Sea by Allah's grace. The virgin birth of Jesus by Allah's grace. Ul-Qarnayn, all of these different miraculous events. But the one thing that I would say, yeah, is the Quran itself is the miracle. The Quran itself is the evidence. The fact that over 2 billion Muslims right now live by it in every way. We sacrifice everything. We will sacrifice everything for the worth of this book.
Do you know
Human
the Quran?
beings. Yes, I know. You said you'd allow me. You said you'd allow me. You said you'd allow me 2 minutes. That in itself is a piece of evidence. That in itself is a piece of evidence. Not a conclusive, absolute piece of evidence, but you take it cumulatively. The fact that when you play the Quran and you hear it in Arabic, the way it touches your heart, that is a piece of evidence. The fact that, like I said earlier, during the month of Ramadan, in the middle of the desert, in the desert heat, we abstain from water, we abstain from food. That is a piece of evidence. The fact that when Muslims live in accordance with the Sunnah, we radiate light, we live in an ascetic way, we pray to God, that is a piece of evidence. So can you see how you can't have one absolute piece of evidence? It has to be cumulative, and it has to be faith.
Unfortunately, what you have said so far will not stand up. Stand up. One second, let me finish. What you have said so far
Will not stand up.
If you were to write that in a philosophy paper as a response, it won't even get you 0 marks.
We're not talking about, yeah, that's because we're not talking about philosophy. We're talking about religion.
Let me finish.
We're talking about faith. It's a different thing.
In other words, would you agree? In other words, would you agree?
In philosophy, you can make.
I gave you 2 minutes.
You can make logical arguments based on empirical data.
In other words,
here we are dealing with subjectivity. We are dealing with.
In other words, would you agree?
My friend.
Yes, 1 second. In other words, would you agree that Islam, following Islam, is not based on objective evidence, but rather based on blind belief statements? Would you agree?
Absolutely.
That's what you've done so far.
Absolutely not.
You hear the Quran being recited and you have
between the Quran and the King James. And where's the evidence?
Ilyas, you're a lovely man.
No, thank you. I don't want it. Thank you
Please,
very much.
this,
all right.
if you want Jesus Christ and the historical nature of the supernatural aspect of his life, especially his death, burial, resurrection, is witnessed not just by Christians but also by non-Christians. Crucial historical points in relation to Jesus.
And you don't believe, we don't believe that throughout the 2,000 years since that moment there could have been any room for corruption within that. You don't believe that perhaps those were... Oh yeah, of course. Anyway.
You studied philosophy. Just by asking a question, you don't falsify a point.
Okay.
You know that.
Anyway.
No, you know that. Ilyas, just by asking, you don't think. Just by throwing in a suspicion, you don't discredit comment.
Well, I will tell you.
No, are you aware of that?
Yeah, I am.
Or not?
I will tell
and therefore, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Why do you do it? Is that desperation? Is this desperation?
Based on rigorous academic scholarship.
Ilyas,
even your own scholars know that the Bible itself has been corrupted. Your own Christian scholars know that the Bible is not historically integral artifact. Look at your own sources. I'm not a scholar.
In other words, you don't know what you're talking about again. You don't know what you're talking about.
And even
you don't know what you're talking about.
Listen. Go to reliable sources.
Ilyas, in other words, could you cite one of these?
I can tell you a resource we can find. Again,
could you cite one of these scholars?
Dr. Abdullah Taib.
Hey, nice.
See you later.
Are you a comedian anywhere? Too early. I can't believe.